We're here actually in front of the Jefferson Memorial. And I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about Thomas Jefferson, who he was, a man of faith, and
Sure, definitely. Jefferson wanted to be remembered for three things, which he had put on his epitaph on his gravestone. And those three things are the author of the Declaration of Independence, the author of the Statute of Religious Freedom, and the founding of the University of Virginia. He didn't mention that all his public service that he had of governor of Virginia, ambassador to many countries, secretary of state, vice president, president, because to him it was just his duty. He didn't feel like it was a big deal. But the three things he wanted to be remembered for all dealt with liberty.
Right.
When you go into the memorial, there are five quotes and writings from Jefferson, and every single one of them reference God.
to me, the things that are inscribed there are some of the most impressive in terms of an understanding and awareness of God.
Yes, and certainly you'll go in and see his Declaration of Independence. Now, the ideas in the Declaration of Independence are thoroughly biblical. You could easily point to it. These ideas were not new to Jefferson, but it says, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Today we don't hold to a set of truths. Everything's relative. We teach relativism. But then they held to a set of truths
Right.
that emanated from the Creator. God revealed His truth to us in nature, the laws of nature and nature's God, and specifically He wrote them on our heart. Our rights come from a Creator. They don't come from government. Because if
Right.
government gives you rights, that means they can take them away. And so these concepts that Jefferson so eloquently penned, again, are thoroughly rooted in Christianity and contain biblical ideas. And again, we live under the Declaration of Independence. It's our binding document.
Any evidence in Thomas Jefferson's personal life? What do we know about him and his faith?
Certainly, Thomas Jefferson attended church his whole life, even while president. In fact, he attended church at the Capitol building. Again, Jefferson was a friend to the Christian faith, and certainly he even said himself was a Christian. It was true later in his life that he did doubt the deity of Christ in 6 of his over many thousands of letters, but nonetheless, he held to a biblical worldview of law and government.
Let me ask you this, because this church thing, his faith is complicated for sure, and I think a lot of people want to claim him as either this or Christians want to claim him. His faithfulness to church and parts of Orthodox Christianity, not only the church service that he had, we call it again the Jefferson Gathering because that's one of the things he's known for, but didn't he also start another church?
He did. So in 1777, he started the Calvinistical Reformed Church that met in Charlottesville, Virginia, in the courthouse.
Well, that's kind of amazing because, today, that wouldn't be what government officials were doing. I don't know that the people would even allow that.
Certainly not, yes.
John, I want to ask you a little bit because separation of church and state, that's what we all grew up hearing and talking about, and it's really been pinned on Thomas Jefferson, that he's the guy who authored this concept of separation of church and state. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, the phrase separation of church and state, or the wall of separation of church and state, is found nowhere in our founding documents.
Right.
And in fact, Jefferson had no part in the Constitution. People think, oh, it's in our Constitution. No. What Jefferson was referring to was back to what he authored in the Statute of Religious Freedom, that the national government, federal government, would not have an establishment of religion, an official church.
Right.
That's what he meant by the separation of church and state.
Like the Church of England.
Correct,
Right.
which had been, throughout all of the European powers, this was common practice. Again, we were stepping away from that. It had nothing to do with keeping God out of government, because you can't keep God out of government more than you can keep him out of, life, because he's author of all creation.
John, you mentioned the three things that he wanted to be known for, and we really haven't touched on the University of Virginia.
106 of the first 108 colleges in America were founded by and for the Christian faith. There were Presbyterian, Princeton, Yale. Each of these universities had a specific denomination. What Jefferson wanted to do was set up a non-denominational church where the students could choose which denomination they wanted to attend and learn from. He was certainly not anti-God or anti-Christian. In fact, Jefferson selected the official motto of the university, which is from John 8:32, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." He also required that there be
That's
services held in the rotunda, church services. So again, another misconception about Jefferson and his faith.
This is really interesting stuff. Thanks a lot, John. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back with more Real Talk live in DC, God and Government.